Hello, welcome to Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. And in this week's episode, we're going to be clearing this bed to expose this amazing Jubaea chilensis palm. So for those that have been watching my channel for a long time, you may remember it was 8 years ago I planted this bed. And this was the first bed I planted in this garden, where I got the raised border set out in the middle of the garden and planted the big Jubaea out, and it's grown really well since then. And we also planted the Trachycarpus princeps palms, which were very small plants, around the corners of this bed. And everything obviously was much smaller then. Things have grown up now, and the Trachycarpus palms are sort of over the edges of the paths, and it's harder to get by without hitting the leaves and damaging them. So we're going to dig those up, and we're going to remove some leaves of the Jubaea to really expose that massive trunk, which you can't see because of all the other plants around it. So that's now 2 princeps palms dug up, transplanted. I've got the big third one to do as well. But before I get to that, I've got this big established clump of Aloe striatula. And just to see where I am with that, I'm just going to take loads of cuttings. So I'm going to cut this back as far as I can, and then I'll be left with the root ball, which I'll be able to dig up, and then I'll be able to get in to the princeps palm and dig that one out. So these are great as cuttings. All you need to do is cut it back like that, remove some of the older leaves. As long as you've got a bit of woody stem there, you can just plant that in a pot of gritty compost, or even, to be honest, just stick that into the soil in spring and summer, and that will root really quickly and you'll have a new plant. And by the looks of things, there'll be several hundred plants here if I take cuttings of this size. Right, it's day 2 now of preparing this bed and cutting back the Jubaea to expose the trunk. It's a lot fresher this morning, but it's going to warm up to well over 20 degrees later on, believe it or not. And we're here on the third side of the palm, and we've got this formium, and this is a nice formium that we've had for about 10 years or so, and it's came from my old house. Not a massive growing type, green wave, but it's too big for this area. It's well over the path, having to cut it back all the time, and it's in the way of the Jubaea behind, so we're going to cut that out. The roots don't go down too far, but I do want to make sure I get enough of the roots so that we can transplant this to somewhere else in the garden. So I'm going to again use the root slayer to go around it and lever this up, and we'll cut back some of the foliage as well, and this will be transplanted further down the garden, and then we'll be left hopefully with a nice area where we can see the trunk of the Jubaea palm. So again, we'll just go around with the root slayer and dig around this plant. So I've got the formium out now, and it's actually quite a big plant. And in fact, there's so much plant material here, I can actually divide this and probably make, 15, 20 plants out of this. So I think I'll cut this back a bit, I'll divide it into sections, replant a nice big plant further down the garden, and we'll pot up the other ones as well for planting later on. So now I've cleared all the way around the Jubaea palm, and it's really nice sandy free draining soil here, so that's why lots of plants have survived around here that shouldn't have done for quite numerous years. So one of them was my polyphylla that lasted a good 5 years out here, but unfortunately the year before last it succumbed to the wet and the cold. But even 2 years later, I've still found a leaf, so it just shows you how much water can stay in succulent leaves and how long they can sort of hang on to life, although there's no future for this, unfortunately. And I've also, while I've been raking over the ground here, I've come across a few little bulbs. So here, we've got 3 bulbs of Aracema congratinissium, has amazing palmate leaves later in the year, and then very unusual striking flowers sort of in August, September time. So these will be replanted in this area, And the only remaining plants really now, we've got two agapanthus, quite small growing ones, really dark blue flowers. We've got house leek, sempervirens there. Round the back we've also got a bromeliad, a hardy bromeliad, and we've also got an astelia round the far side, and I'm not going to dig that up mainly because it doesn't like being moved, but I might cut that back a bit. So now it's time to add some more topsoil here where we've dug out the big plants and refresh the surface, and it's time to reveal more of the trunk on this amazing Jubaea palm. Now with everything cleared, you can really start seeing the Jubaea palm now, but what I want to do is expose the trunk more, and I know really shouldn't take off green leaves because they're photosynthesizing, they're giving energy to the plant and it's helping it grow better, but there's a trade-off there with appearance, and because these low leaves have already been clipped back a bit, looking a bit tatty, and I want to see that trunk better, I am going to cut off quite a lot of these leaves. So I'm going to use this pruning saw. I've disinfected this, I know it's a bit rusty, but I've cleaned it over and I've put some Dettol spray on it and cleaned it over properly, so it should be nice and clean, so when I cut through here there should be no chance of introducing any viruses or anything like that in to this plant from other prunings I've done in the past with this. And we're going to start from the base and cut off these leaves here, and it will really expose the trunk. So I'm just going to go in there, get in as close as I can and just cut these off. So here we have the final result. I've taken off 35 leaves from this Jubaea, so it does show that it does grow a lot of leaves per year. It's still got another 30-40 left on the tree, and that's produced over the last 7-8 years, so that's pretty good going. But now I've exposed that trunk, we can see all the way around the palm, lots of air, lots of light getting in there, and you can really truly see the size of this huge palm tree. It's already taller than me, and the trunk is extremely wide, and it's only going to get wider. And in a few years' time this will really start growing upwards. It's still, believe it or not, growing outwards at the moment because the trunk will get wider and wider, and once at its maximum width it'll start growing upwards. So in a good 10-20 years time all these leaves will be well above my head and I'll have a huge big trunk and lots of space to plant around. So that's the Jubaea. That's been exposed, it's been trimmed back, and we can really see it in all its glory now. So thank you for watching this edition of Exotic Gardener UK. Join me next week, we'll be doing more in the garden.